So the breaking news I'm going to be talking about here is something you're not going to hear in any other newscast, not going to hear in any other podcast. It's because RFK Jr. says that since the 1970s, there's been a weird phenomena that's been unique to the United States, and it's this mass shooting stuff. And he says it's culminating now with the well, he's talking about it in transgender and in other places. But the reality is he's going to mention about the SSRI. I looked it up. SSRI, he said he's researching it. That's antidepressant meds. That's selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which literally means anxiety, depression, PTSD, mood pills. 20% of America's population is addicted to a drug to deal with the atmosphere of the emotions that are around us. Takes me to my Bible verse right here, where Jesus says, you know, that out of your peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world gives, I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled. You realize 20% of America is on medication to cope with demonic, intense activity, and it's only going to get more intense. But Jesus said, I've given you the antidote. Someone on the inside of you, the Holy Spirit, what the Hebrews would call the Ruach HaKodesh, expanding to give you power. And before I even get into my subject today about what's in the food, what's in the nutrients, what's in the chemicals, what's in the spirit, I want you to know that God has given you a remedy that's 2,000 years old and it still works today. It's called Growing on Purpose, Becoming the Person Your Future Requires. Go to lancewallnau.com/grow or call 800-910-6349. I want to give this to you for whatever gift you want to give, whatever your amount you want to sow, even if it's just for, shipping. Cover the shipping, but get the teaching, because if you'll grow on purpose, you'll fulfill your purpose, and the power of God will equalize in you. In a day where people are literally losing their minds, you can have the mind of Christ. lancewallnau.com/grow. Just call 800-910-6349. Can't make it any cheaper than whatever you want to give, but get it. Now let's get into today's show. All right, look, we have these trans shootings going on. I'm telling you, man, it's connected to what the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's a dangerous phenomena because a lot of these folks are just mentally ill. That's why they think they're trapped in the wrong body. And then, of course, the pharmaceutical business, the counselor, and the political apparatus. In Colorado, if your little girl is getting groomed by the teacher in the classroom, which has happened, then if the parents bring the daughter to a counselor, the counselor can lose their license if they suggest, well, maybe you're not trans. Maybe if the child is going in that direction, 11, 12, or 13, the counselor can't say no. The doctors can't say don't. That's when politicians become evil, because the legislators will take away your license if you don't do what they tell you to do. How do you sleep at night as a counselor when a troubled kid comes up to you and says, I think I'm trapped in the wrong body, I think I'm a boy or I'm weird? Because by 18 or 19, most of those trans confusions sort themselves out. Unless, of course, you have the severely autistic situation I talked about yesterday, which is the high number of autism cases that are confused about their gender because there's psychological incentives in school for being unique and celebrated as the cool trans kid. So it's what I'm saying to you is this subject, especially with the shooting that's happened in Rhode Island, the shootings that happens in Canada. I don't want to leave that. So I'm going to move on to some other stuff, but I want to land the plane here. I think this is a really twisted demonic development in America's culture, uniquely American problem. And I think we ought to call it for what it is, because the left is politically mobilized around the LGBTQ community. And since they've adopted the T in their alphabet soup, they're going to keep on pushing, distorting this issue as human freedom versus what it really is, the manipulation of mental illness for the purposes of making money for the medical and pharmaceutical community. And further destroying the culture of the United States while they do it. RFK, Jr. says the surge of mass shootings in America has risen in lockstep with a thing called SSRI use. By the way, SSRI use, for those of you that don't know, is antidepressants. It refers to selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It's anxiety, depression, PTSD drugs that I think some 20% of America is now taking, because the end times are upon us, people. And if you don't have the Holy Ghost, if you don't know how to do deliverance, you don't know how to rebuke the devil, you're going to end up entertaining anxieties, fears, phobias, and you'll become a host home for them, and then you'll be drugged up to cope with the demons. Listen to what RFK says.
What is happening in this country, in all of human history, there's never been a time when a stranger would walk into a schoolroom or into a movie theater and start shooting strangers. Why did that start happening in the 1970s and only in this country? And one of the things that we're looking at is SSRIs and other psychiatric drugs that have these black box warnings on them, and that began proliferating in lockstep with the school shootings and with the mass shootings. I'm trying to look at this in a rational, objective way and say, what changed? It wasn't the proliferation of guns. We've always had guns. Something changed about human behavior, and it happened here where we've got 20% of the population now taking these drugs. And the drugs, in their clinical trials, they saw suicidal and homicidal effects. There's black box warnings on them saying may cause suicidal or homicidal ideation. We're now doing massive studies on this issue to try to figure out why it is that all these shootings are happening here and never happened before.
The relationship is demons getting access through, by the way, you know what the word is for sorcery in the New Testament is the word pharmakia. In other words, the practice of sorcery includes the biochemical alteration of your perception through the uses of drugs and other things, or pharmakia, which is where you get the word pharmacy from, or pharmaceutical, is actually linked to sorcery because of its alchemy to affect your brain and thus make you more open to trafficking in the spirit realm and the occult, and open up a door for spirits to gain access into human beings. Now, Glenn Beck breaks down the coverage of Canada on this trans shooting, which I was even confused of as I was reading the headline yesterday. You can't see this. Police say the suspect shooter, Jesse Van Rostellaar, 18, died from an apparent self-inflicted injury. I thought it was 18 died. Then I see it's 9 people were killed. And they're calling him a transgender woman, which just confuses the heck out of me. Then I read down on the bottom, born male. Just say it was a guy who thought he was a girl. Call him a transgender woman. He wasn't a transgender woman. He was a man who thought he was a woman. Anyway, watch what Glenn Beck says.
Let me play how the Canadian press and the police did everything they could to not truly identify this shooter. Listen to this, cut 1.
That includes the deceased gun person.
Okay. And then separately, do you know the gun person's relationship to
the gun person? I've never heard that term before. The gun person. And then once somebody said, excuse me, in this transgender, they turned the press conference into this nightmare of we identify people the way they want to be identified. And we don't take to this bigotry, in so many words, here in Canada. And it's like, wait, that's not what this story is about. This story is not about guns or anything else. It's about somebody who is mentally unwell, and that may have played a role.
It's kind of like, it's interesting, right? It's true. You read you read The Delicate Way, in which, like, I'm always wondering about, like, because I'm always checking to see if in the some of the when we're in the cycle of Islamic. Now we got the trans cycle now. Now, if there's going to be Islamic shootings or immigrant shootings, and the person's name happens to be Muhammad, there always is this protection of don't leap to conclusions about the guy that drove the car into the Christmas people during a celebration. It was the vehicle was a Ford Bronco. Well, the vehicle didn't do it. It was the driver, and then you find out the driver's name is, Ahmed Mohammed, something or other from Afghanistan. So, but they don't give you that until you torture it out of them later. And you know what I'm talking about. We've been dealing with this for years. It's a weird thing in the West. But I'm bringing it up now because I think that the breakdown on this is that we're kind of in a place where where Trump did years ago that was so unacceptable. Remember that when he was talking about a ban on Muslims coming in from these nations? Well, we're back there again. We're back on kind of stupid. It's kind of like a spiritual, I don't know what the word is, but it's like a fog. You got the call to prayer going on in New York City right now. Did you know that? Going on in New York City. After 9/11, can you imagine someone fast forwarding and saying, that is going to come, you're going to have a communist Muslim mayor, and you're going to have a call to prayer in New York City because you're going to be driving all the Jews out of Brooklyn, out of New York, and the Muslim is going to become the Muslim economic epicenter of the world. New York City after 9/11? Well, here's what Jesus said. He said, when a house is swept clean, if it isn't occupied, then 7 other more wicked spirits come in. My concern is the church, the Christians. They're so weak. So many of them, especially the big evangelical churches. They kind of want to be. They want to be accepted. And they don't want to be culturally taking a stand on anything. They don't want to talk about the dangers of Islam. They don't want to talk about transgender danger. They don't want to talk about LGBT. Matter of fact, they will go ahead and put a BLM, flag up, and they do it all over the place, or a rainbow flag. We welcome everybody. Well, yeah, we welcome all sinners, but we don't necessarily market every sin. You don't open up the Bunny Ranch brothel, in the Fellowship Hall because you want to welcome in the prostitutes. But this, my friends, is the situation we are in. But I'm going to segue for a second. I'm about to go into some. In England, there's some signs that there are 50 million Muslims taking over Europe. I don't know if Europe can recover. I think Eastern Europe has a better chance because they came out of communism. They tend to have a greater sensitivity to losing cultures, since they had to operate with the complete loss of freedom under the communist Russia. But Hungary, Slovakia, these Eastern European countries are pushing back on immigration and assimilation by Muslims. England is waking up now, and it might be a little too late, folks. But I want you to know that there's some action going on in Nigel Farage and in some other reform parties. Play the New Britain Reform Party 1-minute video real quick.
I can assure people, I know they want change. I know we've got to do it by 29. And my intention is to try and give people the best opportunity to vote for something fresh, something that is outside the establishment, which is what reform used to be. And I'm intent on trying to deliver a solution for everybody, but it's going to require their support. I can't do it. I can set up the opportunity, but then it's up to the British people. If they don't, then I respect that, but I've got to try and deliver a mechanism through which, if they agree with me that we need radical change, it's got to come from outside the existing political establishment, then they've got to show that, and they've got to support us, and they've got to trust us, because, I will do my best to change this mess.
We'll be coming right back and talk about the late effort in Europe to try to save itself from what looks to me like its demise. But we'll be right back.
We're entering a period of time
that has increased hostility against people of faith. It's a time when Christians are going to be tested on a moral, physical, psychological, and even a financial basis. I'm here to remind you that God is the one who has blessed you thus far, and He will take care of you in the future. You have a divine responsibility, however, to see trouble and prepare yourself. For example, with record inflation eating away at the value of the U.S. dollar, the savings in your retirement account is in danger of slipping away. I recommend diversifying your 401k or IRA out of paper assets and into physical gold. And the best way to do that is with a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. Now that includes no penalties, there's no taxes when you transfer current retirement funds into Birch Gold. To see how it works, I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get your free info kit, and you'll be glad that you did. Real quick, this is, it's not, I don't think they have enough momentum to take over the country, but we're going to always be covering the rise of the Donald Trumps. These are the Trumpian-style leaders that perhaps an answer to prayer for the British people. It's like, hey, we need to have, the thing is, they don't like Trump over there. I don't know. If you don't like plain-spoken, blunt, tell it like it is leadership, you're never going to come out of the fog. But let's go ahead. Let me give you some tweets from Rupert Lowe. He is, along with Nigel Farage, is trying to wake up Britain. He says this. Restore Britain has been called far right and racist. Well, that's the other one, image 12. Restore Britain has been called far right and racist by The Guardian, Reform and the whole host of soapless socialists over the last few days. This is their leader, Rupert Lowe. I can't be clearer in our official party response. We don't care. Illegals will go. Hotels will be emptied. The HMOs closed. Foreign sex pests, criminals, and invaders rounded up, and they're going to be sent home. Far more illegals will leave than enter. Far more illegals will leave than enter. Those foreign nationals here already will pay their way. They will contribute. They will respect our culture. If they don't do it, fine. It's their choice, but they're going to leave too. If that's racist to these people, so be it. This is a logical policy platform that the British people agree with. They've just never had it seriously offered before. Our political party is going to tell the brutal truth. Get used to it. Wow. Now, unfortunately, that's not the sentiment of the majority, but it is nice to hear. Who's that guy, Tommy, that's always getting locked up over there? Tommy Robinson. Great guy. Constantly getting locked up because he's exposing the Muslim grooming gangs and gets to go to court because of what he says. Image 11, just giving it to you. It's nice to hear somebody speaking out like this. Restore Britain will not pretend that a man wearing a dress is a woman. We're just not going to do that. I mean, I even think we don't have politicians in America that are this blunt. We will not deny biological reality. We will not indulge this madness. Men will be banned from women's sports categorically and absolutely. Women's private spaces will be protected unequivocally. If a man enters a woman's toilet, they'll be treated as an invasive act, because that's what it is. Biological men will not be placed in women's prisons under any circumstances. See, it's a crazy thing in the United States. A guy says he's a woman, so he insists on being sent to a women's prison where there's a problem with multiple pregnancies happening with female inmates because the transgender guy that says he's a girl is over there having sex with him. I mean, where the heck are we? This filth will be kept away from children. Any teacher or medical professional pushing the idea that a child is born in the wrong body will be sacked, and they will be prosecuted. We won't tolerate it. Any doctor found to have given vulnerable children mutilating surgery or puberty-blocking poison will be struck off and put in prison. That vile flag will be banned, I guess it's some of the LGBTQ flag, from public sector buildings, especially our schools. Restore Britain will protect women. Restore Britain will protect children without apology. If you agree, hope you consider joining our party. Well, we're going to keep track of that. If nothing else, it's a little John the Baptist voice there, shining in the midst of Yarmouth in Norfolk, and Restore Britain. Now, Nigel Farage is the other reformer over there. He's had a falling out with this guy, as always happens, leadership tussles like that. But I think if they combine together, they will at least be bigger than if they're apart. How's that for a sage piece of math? Anyway, I read you the tweets. What Marco Rubio is kind of being popularized right now because of him showing up in Munich and sounding like a statesman. It was J.D. Vance that was there a month and a half ago, and he shook things up by saying, "Hey, we're friends with you guys, but you're getting weird. Over here in Europe, you're canceling free speech. You're not allowing people to talk. Man, you better wake up. Your immigration policies are out of control. You're losing your cultures, your distinctions. You're creating you're killing your industry. Your energy is el succo because you have the highest cost of living in the world because you refuse to allow your energy to be used because of your environmentalist extremes." And so you end up having this costly, you're in a downward spiral. We don't want to see that happen to you. And we in the West really want you to wake up. Well, that was J.D. Vance's moment of fame. Now Marco Rubio goes over. And Marco Rubio delivers what was apparently, basically, the speech was almost like, hey, we Americans are like your big brother. We're not trying to be this way, but we're warning you. You got to change stuff because we're your friends, we're family. But if you keep going the direction you're going, we can't bail you out. And so let's listen to what Scott Jennings has to say about the Munich conference.
Look, this Munich Security Conference put on full blast the fact that we've only got one adult political party in the United States right now, and it's the Republican Party. Marco Rubio gave the speech of a lifetime over there. He laid out a clear foreign policy vision that defends Western values and Western civilization. And the brightest Democrat over there, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, crapped the bed, okay? She wants to be president, she wants to run, and she's one of the most popular Democrats and gave one of the most embarrassing performances you could possibly do. Gretchen Whitmer, one of the governors that Bakari is touting, said she knows even less about foreign policy than AOC, and Gavin Newsom has repeatedly embarrassed himself every time he's gone to one of these international conferences, whether it was Davos a few weeks ago or Munich. He can't even rebuild a single house in the Palisades in Los Angeles. In California, people are running out of there like crazy right now. The bottom line is this. These international conferences have been a disaster for Dems, and they have showed Republicans, in the name of Marco Rubio this time around, to be adults who have a clear-eyed view of what the United States has to do in the future.
Boy, I'll tell you what, it's the end times when the Democrats are back in the Oval Office. That's all I can tell you. Because it's the destruction of a culture. It's the destruction of our we got 5%, economic recovery right now, GDP growth. And that's just purely a Trump phenomenon. People are ho-hum till you lose it. And then when you have rocketing inflation, and jobs are lost, you realize the era of Trump was the golden era. And I pray that the golden era isn't going to just become a golden minute. But let's go ahead and see what Sir Marco of Rubio fame said in this video, cut 15.
For 5 centuries before the end of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe. But in 1945, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. Half of it lived behind an iron curtain, and the rest looked like it would soon follow. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and by anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world and drape the red hammer and sickle across vast swaths of the map in the years to come. Against that backdrop, then, as now, many came to believe that the West's age of dominance had come to an end, and that our future was destined to be a faint and feeble echo of our past. But together, our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice, and it was a choice they refused to make. This is what we did together once before, and this is what President Trump and the United States want to do again now, together with you. And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it.
Well, that sounds like a great statesman, doesn't it? I personally find some of these speeches, well, it's probably better than the word salad AOC. The quote that they're talking about with her, Jennings says she crapped the bed, was kind of a powerful metaphor. But what he's saying is, she was asked, what about war with Taiwan? Simple question you ought to have a policy response to, like, are we going to defend Taiwan if China goes in? She goes, well, actually, there's a long-standing, and this has been going on for years, and war is a very serious thing, and that has to be thought about when you consider this. That's pretty much what she said. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's like shades of Kamala Harris syndrome taking over. And then, of course, they tried to, even the Democrats themselves in the talk circus later said, it wasn't the most articulate moment. But here's the point. Ocasio-Cortez, she auditioned for the role. You understand what the Democrats did? They had a thing called the Justice League of America, or some kind of comic book thing. Justice Democrats is what it was called. And they had auditions. They took place in New York. And they had a whole bunch of these gals line up, and they came in and they all read scripts. She was the best script reader, because she acts like she's, a Latino from the hood. But the fact of the matter is she was raised in private schools, working in the bars, and was good at hustling. So she says, I can read that. I could be your candidate. So she learned how to play the role. And then she got rebranded and launched. So I have confidence that she, as an actress, can memorize a script. Rubio writes his own stuff. Ocasio at least can read what someone else wrote. But that she didn't even prepare, I think, is an evidence of God saying he's taken the wheels off Pharaoh's chariot so they can't get too far ahead of us. Am I out of time? I'm out of time. Can't believe it. We're out of time. See you again on the next show.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate